All right. Welcome, everybody. Certified Hospitality Program 206. KPIs, financial reporting. Everybody seemed to have a good response. Oh, where's Tariq? Tariq said he was coming, but he's not there. All right, he'll be here. Um, we seem to have a good response. Everybody seemed to like it. Michael will do some work on some pro formas. I didn't realize we didn't have as much in there. Um, and it's funny because that's one of the things that I think most people miss. And so I missed putting it in there. So we'll have to make some adjustments for the next class. But I did one, I added it to the files. I suppose I should pull up my, let's just see here, 206 yesterday. There we go. All right. I added a pro forma to the file so we can go in and see that. And then I've got one on a set on a slide over here. We can spend some time there. It's one of the things that I noticed when I started getting into clubs. Nobody really did anything into the future. Everything was all in the past, right? So we can do a P&L with the actuals from the event. I picked fireworks because it's a robust, big one. But you can do anything. You do a wine dinner, obviously, you can do anything. But we always seem to, I inherited, let's see, now I think Tariq is in the waiting room. There we go. Okay. So I was pretty good at doing the post-mortem, right? The post-event P&L. But then you deal with so much of the financials, and we're kind of jumping into it already. Hey, Tariq.
Right.
We're kind of digging into it, or we're kind of diving into it already. But we do it after the fact, and then we go, wait a minute, how come? And so obviously we turned around and started doing pro formas beforehand. There's also a piece I want to talk about in here. Different clubs have different goals for the events. I will say that what I was successful kind of implementing was, again, this was with a member-owned club that we allowed outside events. And so the outside events, we had a profit percentage goal, right? So we went to the House committee and we said, I'm just going to jump right into it. So we went to the House committee and we said, okay, here's how we're going to do, because they said we're losing too much money in F&B, right? Everybody's heard this. So, they said we should have more events. So we would do Monday golf events. Those of you that have a golf course, you know what a Monday golf event encompasses. It can be a pain in the butt, but it can also be profitable. We were doing a number of those at break even because there was a member involved and it was a charity. And we said, wait a minute, hold on, we're not a charity. You're the charity. And so we developed some pro forma P&Ls, and then we met with the House committee and came up with some guidelines for minimum profit. And then we took that to the board and got that approved. So if we did an outside sponsored event, we had a profit goal that we had to hit. And if we didn't, we had to report back to the finance committee as to why we didn't hit that profit goal. So we then turned around and had the ability, when we sold the event to the Monday charity, I appreciate that you're a charity. Here's what our finance committee has directed us. We have to make $25,000 a day, right, for that Monday. So we got to make $25,000 profit. So here's how we make our profit. Well, we don't want to pay that kind of rates. Fantastic. There's other golf courses out there. There's other clubs. So it allowed us to separate a little bit. Um, a little tidbit, which I'll throw out there for anybody who's interested. We used to get a lot of pushback from organizers. Well, we're going to deliver a lot of members. We're going to bring members in, so we want a discount, right? You're probably going to you got 144 people here, probably at least 30 to 40 are going to join. No, they didn't. So I came up with this idea, and I'm happy to share it here. And these numbers are a little bit old, but I said I would give them $2,500 off any person who joined. So first year, you get nothing off. You pay full rack, you pay everything, pay full price. Now, in the course of the year, if you provide us the information and they turn into a member and they played in this golf tournament, they were a member, we'll give you $2,500 off next year's event. So go, great, fantastic. Turn 10 members, we'll give you 25,000 off the event. So it piqued their interest, and you know how many we got out of it. Right. Over the course of 7 years, we got zero. But the point is, it puts the onus back on them and it kicks it out of your court and says, listen, I can't give you a discount ahead of time, but give us all the information, give us all the names, you have the emails, give them to us. And if they become a member in the next 12 months, we'll give you 2,500 per person. And they are all like, oh, so we'll get 10 people to join. I'm like, good, get 20 and you get a free event. Right. And I kind of cleared it by the board and all that, and they were good with it. And again, we got zero, but it took the monkey off our back of having to constantly protect ourselves from a discount, a discount, a discount, a discount. All right. So that's that tangent that we just went off on. Um, so again, if you have the events, you can do a P&L. We did an Excel spreadsheet, and I can send this to anybody who's interested, but we did a big Excel spreadsheet, and each tab, we did two. We did one for outside events and we did one for member events. And each tab was a different event, right? And you kept them going through the year. And on the cover page, you had the summary. And so our goal was a certain percentage, right? We had to make 25% profit, whatever it was, on outside events. And we would report this document would get reported in with the monthly House committee if they were in charge of it, or finance committee, whoever was in charge of it. And they got to see the percentages on a yearly basis and where we are. In some events, we made more money, some events we didn't. But the goal was 25% end of year, right? Some would be 30, some would be 20. Our goal was 25. We did the same thing with member events. We did the same thing with member events. So we took New Year's Eve, fireworks, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, wine dinners, whatever they were. And it might be a break even, right? So over the course of the year, we break even on member events. And you go, okay, that makes sense. We made money on Thanksgiving because, again, back in the day, turkey was 99 cents a pound and we had 400 people lined up ready to go. So it was easy to, and we charged $45 a person because everybody charged $50 a person. So we came in under at 45. So we get pushback from the committees. Why are you charging so much for Thanksgiving? Okay, well, we pay $25,000 in fireworks, right? And we do a cookout and we have 3,000 people on property. And so 4th of July, we lose 30,000. So over the course of the year, if we broke even, we could say, hey, we don't make money off the members. We make money on this event and we lose money on this event. Swim meets. Ain't a whole lot of money to be made in swim meets. But the reason we do them is because that's what we are, and we lose money there, but we make it on Mother's Day. And so if you can do these P&Ls and if you can track them, again, the final P&Ls, obviously the actuals, that's what we want. And then you have those documents and you can keep those in front of the finance committee or the appropriate committee. It allows them to keep a long range outlook on the events. We don't want to get into the micromanaging again. Again, this is when I knew my time was done at Country Club of Fairfax. The draft beer subcommittee, right, was like, wait a minute. We run 30% beverage cost or 25% beverage cost, and a keg of beer costs us this. So that means a draft beer should be 45 cents.
Hmm.
Right? That's not what we're going to do. We're not going to micromanage this thing down to per draft beer. We're going to take it as a whole, right? Because if you want to go that way, that's fine. Then we'll go back to a full, a 2 ounce pour on a vodka drink. Oh, we can't do that. Ah, okay, I see, right? And so balancing this and keeping them focused on the long term helped, just get rid of the individual conversations, the monthly conversations of why is this and why is that, because we're looking at the big picture, we're looking at a 12-month cycle, and we're looking at these costs. Now, the pro forma again allows you to again look into the future. And again, it's as good as the information you put on the paper, right? We winged it a couple times. You're like, whatever, we'll figure it out. We got to do the event. It doesn't matter. Again, think 9 holes. Think sorry, Ashley, you're the only lady here, but think of any of the ladies' events where they bring their own boiled eggs, right? And you provide what is it? You provide oh, Tariq's back. You provide what is it, Gerardo? You provide lemons, ice, and sugar, and they make their own lemonade. But they won't pay for lemonade because water's free and lemons are free, so they make their own lemonade. Right? So we'll lose money on some of those. We know that. And then we'll make money on others. And so the pro forma will help figure that out. I like the pro forma on anything that was bigger than, I forget the number I had, but you can say anything bigger than 10 people. I wouldn't do pro formas on Bridge Club, Ladies Nine Holers, right? The stuff that you men's retired men's league, a lot of times the chef again will use leftovers, right? He's bringing in prime rib. It rained on Thursday, Wednesday night for prime rib night, but he's going to serve it for Thursday, um, retired men's.
Amen.
Again, wait a minute, prime ribs, $25. Yeah, it was left over from yesterday. Right. Again, that give and take. You may not do pro formers on all those, but for the larger events, I think it helps guide. For me as a general manager, it helped me understand that the food and beverage director or the clubhouse manager was thinking of everything. Did you remember the band? Did you remember how much the valet is going to cost? Do you remember we always give a bottle of wine or we give this little snack bundle out at the end of the wine dinner? Is that included, right? So for me, it was me checking to make sure they checked the boxes and put some effort into the number. And then obviously we would do some comparison with the actuals afterwards. So that's my soapbox on kind of the pro formas. All right, let's see if we can share this. Oh, we've already got somebody on the training. Training the up and coming manager to do a pro forma is a good training option. Perfect. Yes, Brett. Right. Again, I think one thing I think you've noticed, hopefully one thing that we've brought, given some clarity in at least the last two events. Hopefully you feel, I really, really hope you feel, please, please, if not, lie to me. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully you have some confidence in the financials. You have a little bit more confidence in your financial ability. What I found, this stuff it's not difficult. It's not magic. Each club has a way of muddying the water such that you can feel like a rudderless ship spinning around in a whirlpool, right? Because of all these different names, different concepts. And again, each financial document's different, the way they report it's different, the things that they care about are different, right? So you come from one club, you come into a new club, and it's all Greek, and then it sorts itself out. And hopefully, in these last two sessions, you've gained some confidence in this because that's 99% of it. This is it. You do the same thing at home with your car, with your mortgage, with your rent, with your grocery bill. It's the same thing. Some of you, you don't have to raise your hand. Some of you probably put together a little bit of a list for vacation. Okay, resort's going to cost this, or the rental house is going to cost that. I'm going to want to play golf 3 times, so that's $100 a pop, right? And so, okay, I need to put aside 3 grand for the vacation or whatever it is. It's the same concept. You're just doing it under a little bit more pressure because there are treasurers and board directors, and they have knowledge specifically in the financial world that might trump your knowledge and experience because they're the CFO of a Fortune 100 company. Okay, that's fine. But you are the subject matter expert in the financials of your club. They can talk a talk and they can spin you around and they can ask you questions that you can't find answers to. And some of them do that as an ego trip, just to prove to you that they're smarter than you. You take that deep breath, go deep down into that confidence that you have about your numbers at your club or your department and speak from that point. And hopefully this helps with that. And again, I think it's your job to train every up and coming manager to be more financially literate and do more pro formas. Again, I think it could be something that easily is rolled out by all of you. Again, do you want to do it tomorrow? Probably not. But at some point, hey, let's start putting a pro forma together. Let's start putting a pro forma together for every event over 10 people, every event over $5,000 revenue, whatever your criteria is, right? You don't want to cause a massive influx of work, but at the same time, do the people underneath you, do they know? Do they know what it needs to take to succeed in a good event? Or do they just put 30 bottles of Grey Goose vodka out and go, whatever, I think they're thirsty, right? And then, right, great for an intern, right? Again, we used to take the actuals, include them in the BEOs for these large events. And look, man, if you're going to go through 10 bottles of Grey Goose, put a case of Grey Goose out there. Ashley will remember that we had a lobster feast on the pool deck, right? Middle of summer. What else are we going to do? Let's find some other way to get all the members up here. And it was all you can eat lobster. Again, this goes back in the day when it was a little less expensive. And the first year we did it, we brought like literally, I think it was 48 bottles of Grey Goose from the main clubhouse up the hill to the pool. The second year, right, we do the same thing. We start getting ready for it. We start getting the cart ready, right? But the food and beverage director's putting 4 cases. I'm like, what did we sell last year? He's like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Why are we bringing 4 cases of Grey Goose up there? Let's go look at it. And we sold 10 bottles. Okay, so just get 1 case, right? And so again, that pro forma helps the manager kind of see what's going on. Do they know what they're doing? Are they pulling this, right? Or are they just throwing darts at it? So anything you can do to implement this as we go along, I think would be successful. Again, you'll get pushback, you'll get we just dropped my daughter off at college last week. So you'll get the eye roll from your younger managers. Oh, another paperwork. I can't do another Excel spreadsheet. Right?
Gotta do it
Literally,
once.
when we get into it, right? What'd you say, Jordan?
I think you just gotta do it once, and then you just
Do
use
it.
a template.
Exactly. Well,
And
exactly. And that's what I'll show you is how to use the template. And it's simple, man. And again, if you have last year's numbers, it's easy to do a pro forma off last year's numbers.
Mhm.
See? Then you get this year's, and now all of a sudden, again, in theory, your BEO should have a few pages to it, which includes last year's event or the pro forma, so you have an idea what you're looking for. I think through COVID, I know prior to COVID and through COVID, we clubs were very successful at redefining success for events, right? You all have probably found a way to be very successful with 10 people in an event because that's what was needed. But again, do you scale the entertainment? Do you scale the staffing? Do you scale the food offerings to 10 people? Or are you still creating it like it's 50 people and going to throw away for 40, right? And so again, those of you that have any challenges with a chef, it just helps everybody stay on the same page and put their eyes on it, right? The chef ought to have an idea of how much product they're bringing in for this event. They ought to have an idea how much labor it's going to take to produce this event. And again, we're not looking for drill down to the penny. Again, if you've got the breakdown of the event equals a setup for another event, okay, right? That happens, right? Takes an extra hour to break it down. Why does it take an extra hour? Because we're setting up for tomorrow morning. Okay. Can you code that to this or code that to tomorrow's? Again, we're not looking for busy work and we're not looking for crucial challenges like that. That all gets washed out at the end of the month with payroll. But again, you want something that you be proud of to hold up and say, hey, this is where we thought we were going to be, and this is where we are. So let's jump into it here. Somewhere here is share screen, share screen options. One participant at a time. I don't know. Come on now. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. All right, so y'all can see this.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. So again, we were looking for financial knowledge, right? Understand key financial concepts. We're going to spend a lot of time on this, and similar to the last one, I don't have a lot of slides. Y'all did well on the tests. Survey responses were good. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to know from you where your challenges are, right? This is the last one we're going to get together and talk about this, and these are very strategic reports. These are reports that are not how many, right? This is not a payroll report from today. This is going to be a big picture, big thinking. And again, if you can focus on it in your department and you can understand it at a higher level, the goal here is to gain confidence in yourself, your ability to understand the words, the concepts, so that when you get into that next position, you're like, oh, yeah, hey, I got that. Let's follow this, right? And I think in there, one of the things we're going to talk about is, can you develop a KPI for your own department? How would you do that, right? And I want to hear some ideas. So again, understanding key financial concepts. Um, Again, enhanced financial reporting. We're just going to dig deeper than last month. Um, we got a little bit in here. We didn't spend a lot of time leveraging financial software. I want to talk about that a little bit. Again, I would assume as you get to the position that you all are in, you're probably pretty good at the point of sale. You're probably getting pretty good at it and understanding the nuances of it and how to get the information out of it. You've probably also gotten to the point in your career where you understand crap in is crap out. So the number of times that we do the special in the point of sale that says sea scallops and it's the same as the last one and it's a new item and then you print out or you look on the screen of all the items, right? You're like, oh my God, this is chaos. And so I spent a lot of time in your positions kind of cleaning that point of sale up. If our specials are mainly one-offs or leftover, not leftovers, but items that need to move, Do you need to create a whole new item? Do you need to save that item, or can you just reuse that modifier or reuse that item, change the modifiers? Um, if it's going to be, if you use your specials to produce new documents, I mean, not new documents, new dinner menus, right? You're trying out a fall item late summer. You might want to make its own special button so that it can become a regular button. So again, we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to know if you guys are having challenges there. Biggest piece I want to tell you about is the resources that are available through your point of sale vendor. I'm good friends with a lot of them. You'd be amazed how much energy and effort they will help you. They will put a lot of effort into helping you. You have to ask for it, and you might have to search around a little bit to find the person who does it. But they're very interested in helping you get better with your point of sale. Because if you get pissed with it, guess what? You're going to switch. If you switch, they lose money. So they'll help you. So if you're not getting what you want, you need to leverage that relationship. Obviously, understanding KPIs and financial management skills. Again, part of this entire program is to get you all thinking more strategically. So, how do the financial decisions that you make and how do the reports that you look at affect the club in a strategic fashion? So you all tell me, have you had experience with KPIs? If yes, great. If no, okay, that's great too. Are there any KPIs that your bosses, your people above you are currently asking you to follow? Do you have any that you're following? What's your experience within the where did Tariq go? We keep losing him. All right, that's fine. Oh, there he is. He's just not on my screen. Okay. All right. So we'll open it up. What key performance indicators have you worked with or do you find challenging? Not all at once now. Go ahead. Who's working with them? All right, I'll start calling on people. Gerardo.
course.
Ah,
No, well, it's a bit
give me
different.
none. Look, I think
No,
KPIs tend to live in the boardroom. And the
I
problem is when you get into that boardroom, you don't know where the KPIs came from. So that's why I want to put this here because this is in your future. It does not have to be in your present. So it can be zero.
correct. That's what I was like. The KPI was a little like fairly new for me because I'm
Yep.
more like P&L types. That's where like
Mhm.
I'm more focused on when it comes to like a monthly base, a year base, especially creating budgets.
Yep.
So it's just more like I see the actuals, I see the what we budget for, and they kind of like adjust. I think that's what I kind of put on my, you know, feedback. Kind of
Yep.
like the KPI was like new for me,
Hmm.
and I was felt more comfortable in the P&L section
Yeah.
portion.
Perfect. And I would expect most of everybody to be similar with that, meaning the challenge again, you're good at the P&Ls because that's what you're given every day, right? Was this event successful? Was this last wine dinner? Was pick an event, doesn't matter. Was it
Yeah,
successful? Right? And tracking, they want to make sure as a GM, I would want to make sure that you all are very comfortable tracking the actuals, right? So give me a P&L.
yeah,
And in theory, if I added all the P&Ls up, I'd get an end of month it would match. Right? If you say you went through 10,000 in labor this month and actual labor was 10,000, I'd go, P&Ls are accurate. Again, that's a request or a requirement that's really in the weeds. I don't know too many GMs that would want that because it will never add up. Because there's always one person walking around, there's a locker room attendant. There's no P&L to that person. That person just costs money. But anyway, you get my point. So the better understanding you have of P&Ls, the easier it is to step into the KPIs. How about somebody else, Michael or Frank or Tariq?
Yeah, I think the thing with KPIs, especially if you're building them for your team, is to make sure that they're um, easily defined as
Yeah.
far as making them, something that has a tangible number to it instead of a subjective KPI.
Yep.
It's the difference between, going bowling and seeing the pins, and then you go the next time and there's a sheet over them, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you're actually aiming at. And just making sure that you're clearly defining what they are and keeping them up to date on where they stand.
Yeah. KPIs have a tendency, they're popular, right? Everybody loves it because, oh yeah, because it sounds like we know what we're doing, right? And the challenge is, and I think I put this in there in a couple different places, right? It has to be relevant. I love the SMART analogy, right? It has to be relevant and it has to be easily trackable and it has to be attainable. Too often, again, you all have heard this, or expenses are too high, right? I just had this conversation with another rackets professional that some of us know, right? It's like, oh yeah, rackets is bleeding cash, right? That's a useless conversation. That's a useless statement. That says nothing, right? But that's where a lot of the leaders of clubs, the volunteer leaders of clubs, are focusing, right? And again, everyone here touches food and beverage, and it's one of the biggest lost leaders, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if we get too many people in the volunteer leadership position that think it's wrong, i.e., restaurant mentality, we have to make money. Now all of a sudden, right, we're missing it. So our KPI becomes labor, or our KPI becomes food cost. Look, and it might be food cost. Why would we need a KPI for that? We check that every month at the board meeting. We don't need a separate KPI for that. Who else has had some experience with KPIs or lack of? Here?
Yeah, I'll share one. I think I mentioned this last time we met, but our the KPI before the new ownership group, it was all about profit margins, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to, they didn't care how it was done as long as they're showing profit every month. And
Yep.
now everything switched to revenue, right? So it's all about growing
Yep.
revenue and almost jeopardizing the profit margin just because the contract changed on the new management group. And so, anyways, I just wanted to share that because we went from, I think I mentioned this last
Yeah.
time, is we went from one extreme to another because now the profit margin is not as important as it is the revenue.
And that's a perfect example, right? Because they can change, right? And that's one of the things we talked about or at least hopefully you saw in the education. They can change. Again, if you change them weekly, right? Again, going back to Hiram's conversation, it must be and Hiram's got a little bit of a cold, so he was on mute. Had a cough, so I'll speak for him here. But say you chime in if you want here. If you change every week, you're bouncing back and forth, but you can change them. But how chaotic, I won't use the word chaotic.
No,
How
it's
challenging
chaotic.
is that? Is it
It's
chaotic?
chaotic.
It's chaotic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So the team was in a limbo for about 6 months doing the transition, right? Doing the transition was like, okay, what are we doing now? It was a mindset that we all had to switch, and some people lost their jobs. Some people were not able to adapt.
yeah,
And now that I've seen both I guess both extremes, I was able to adapt. Of course, you know, I just you just have to do, it's almost like you go with the flow, right? But we're out there figuring out ways to generate more revenue, which is very easy for me because I am revenue driven, right?
yeah, yeah,
I kind of had a little bit more of an issue with the profit margins just because I want to create revenue, right?
right.
And I wasn't really willing to cut staff or you know look for ways to save money and sacrifice the product, right? Sacrifice the quality of
Yeah.
our events and stuff like
And the
that. So
experience.
right.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a little bit of an issue adjusting to that in the beginning, but then I did, and then everything changed, and then it's like you have to adapt again.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to be said. I don't know if we've said this before. I'll say it here. Revenue covers a lot of sins. That's kind of I didn't create that. I've heard that, right? And so again, if you can increase revenue, there's a lot more fun and things you can do with more revenue. And again, some people get that. Drive revenue and everything takes care of itself. Obviously, if you're focused on profit, that's a different focus.
Right.
I've used the analogy here, and you all recognize it. I don't. You can't have half a sous chef. You can't have half a director of rackets. So on a day that might be slow, I'm in the mid-Atlantic and we've got some rain today, and it's going to call for the storm's coming up. We got some. So you can't have half a team, right? Those anybody here, Michael will shake his head on this one. There's a kitchen to open 1961, it takes this many people. If you have 50 people for dinner, or if you have 4 people for dinner, you still need a kitchen brigade of, right? And you might have some flexibility, send a couple hourly people home. But if you've got 3 positions in the kitchen, hot line, cold line, and expo, right? They might be able to handle anywhere from 0 to 20. And then once you get to 30, you need a fourth person. That's great. And 20 is the most profitable because you're bringing in a ton of revenue with 3 people. And some days you have 4 on a rainy day and you lose money, right? And so that makes it far more difficult with the KPIs to it's hard to manage. You can't cut your way to success, right? Again, another popular saying. You can't cut your way to success, right? And so again, if you're only looking at profit, it makes you make bad decisions. My belief,
People are not
right?
gonna want
Because
to work
now,
for you.
right, exactly. Say it again, Gerardo, louder.
No, people are not gonna want to work for you. It's just
Right.
the same thing that he was saying. Like if you gotta cut people, I mean, I get it. We, at Fairfax, we like to see revenue, and then when
Yeah,
it's like cloudy, like right now, I'm not in. I mean,
yeah.
it doesn't matter because I'm salary, right? But
Right, right. But the cost's still there, right? And
exactly,
that's part of the financial challenge when you have to explain this to other people. Look, you can be off today. Okay, you're still getting paid.
yeah.
Right? X number of dollars hit the P&L today for Gerardo, for Tariq, for Frank, for Michael, for all of us, right?
Mhm.
And again, and the variable labor is not that variable, right? If they work there and they expect 35 hours a week and you expect 35 hours a week so they can get insurance and they can pay their bills, whatever the expectations are. And then the moment you get 3 or 4 bad days or snow or whatever, boom, the next thing you know, you're down to 25, they leave. Now you got to
Mhm.
train somebody else, right? And so you may have to, I'm never a fan of paying somebody to do nothing, but I'm also a fan of you have to, it costs money. There's overhead. Dr. Brett Horton has a question.
Well, I don't know if it's a question as much as a
Uh-oh,
comment.
comment. I love it.
When working at both the Greenbrier and the Broadmoor, specifically the Broadmoor, they always flipped out in January and February when we were supposed to be dead.
Yep.
And we had all kinds of salary. And the reason for that was everybody was on vacation. And they
Yeah.
were like, well, cut your labor cost. And it's like, you don't understand. We've got to put that, we had to budget for it.
Yep.
And then realize that, we had people who were taking an entire month off
Yep.
for pay
Yep.
because that's so keeping some of those things in mind, but telling that story. The other thing I would say is practice telling your story to your board and your committees.
Yes. 100%. Right. Same thing, Mid-Atlantic. We know this, August. Usually, right now, how many people have a significant portion of their members at the beach? Well, maybe not the Outer Banks, but somewhere near the beach, right? How many have members on their way back from the Outer Banks? But anyway, the point is,
How
and
many
look,
of you want your member to be at the
exactly, go there and get washed away, damn it. Right. And we have those, again, I'm speaking for myself in the Mid-Atlantic. We have a significant number of hourly employees or salaried employees that are from Central America, and they don't go home for the weekend. They go home for a month. And they've been employees of ours for maybe a decade, and they might have 4 weeks vacation, and we love that. And we send them on their way, right? And so, like you said, we send a sous chef who's a salaried person gone for a month. We replace that person's work with an hourly line cook, and we watch revenue drop because our members are out of town. And what's the first thing the board says? Exactly, is wait a minute, how come payroll spiked in August? Because we got to give them their time off. I've worked at clubs where vacation hits when they take it, which can be catastrophic if you're not careful and if you're not explaining it. A better way, I think most clubs will take vacation and divide it by 365 days. So, in other words, you take all the vacation that everybody could use and you divide it by 365, and that's $165 a day, whatever it is. And that's what hits your payroll every day. So you don't get a spike when they actually use it, right? It hits that base. Again, the challenge with that is exactly as Brett's saying, is when it hits that base and you have to then fill it in for hourly people, you're still going to see that spike in payroll. Now, again, that comes in the communication, right? Are you communicating that with others? One would hope in a well-run, progressive club, transparent club, that it is. And the expectation is, yes, January, February, payroll's up because boom, whatever it is, right? Vacations. And same as August. But again, you're predicting when they go on vacation. What happens when a storm comes and they don't go on vacation? And now they want to go on vacation in September and October when you're busy, right? And then we get into accrual. I don't want to go down the HR, the accrual piece. If you carry vacation over, all that stuff. But again, it's. I'm not going to say it's above your pay grade for understanding that vacation and accruals. It's not. It shouldn't be in your wheelhouse, meaning it shouldn't be something you have to work on every day. But you might want to ask your CFO. It depends, right? Depends on how much grief you're getting on your payroll, right? If your system, I'm going to guess Army Navy Country Club pretty tight, meaning they understand where your spikes in payroll are coming because of seasonality. North Hill's probably the same, right? You guys are all probably Hiram. You guys are probably the same, right? But recognize that if you work for a club that doesn't have their proverbial together, it can be a nightmare. It can be a huge yo-yo that you are really tap dancing in the boardroom or in a committee meeting because it doesn't make sense to you, right? So recognize that if you change clubs, everybody has a different reporting process, which it has different levels of challenges, right? I don't want to go too far down that
I think it should
rabbit.
be on our queue, regardless of, like you said, about payroll. I see when I get the request forms, and when they hit me with a 4 week timeout, because they have it. I mean, that's kind of like, okay, you're gonna be gone a good amount of the summer. Like, do you really want to do this? Because in the winter time, it's gonna be quiet, and
Right.
I get it. I'm not going to bend backwards when you leaving me in the busy season. So for you to get you 35 hours, I'm gonna give you the
Yep.
25, 30, because it's kind of give and take. I know you've been here for 30 years, so 20 years, 15 years, whatever the case might be. But if you want a month off when it's busy, okay, I'll give it to you. And if I can make it happen, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make it happen when it's not busy.
Yeah.
So
I'll say this here, and I think it's fairly, I think you all know this, but I'll just say it just because look, if you're not actively collaborating with people who have large chunks of vacation or who choose to take large chunks of vacation, you should be, right? Again, I would imagine most of you, again, beginning of your fiscal year, second week of January, all right, guys, when are we going to go? When is everybody going to go on vacation? You put it on a calendar, right? You want to give them every opportunity to be to have a good work-life balance. But again, oh, I want to leave May 15th and come back July 15th. Really? Right? There's now again, somebody's parents die, there's always exceptions. But the point being is that you should have some control of that and some say in that, and there should be a give and take, specifically if you're giving them that much time. So, all right, we're going to move past that. Let's go back to the slide deck. Are you seeing it? Okay. All right. So again, these were pretty good. The questions, everyone passed. It was good. Again, the pro forma should be provided and created prior to the event and then used to compare for actuals. So that's a good one. Um, again, the data has to be relevant and it has to match the company's objectives. So again, going back to Hiram, oh, I see what I'm doing. Now I figured it out. Look at this. Now I know what I'm doing. Okay. Well, he says, whoops, all right, too far. Anyway, all right, I'll figure it out. The it has to match the objectives. So again, back to Hiram's comment, which is great. I mean, seriously, I couldn't have placed you here any better if I tried, right? So they can move, right? But they have to go after your objectives. So if ownership, membership, leadership decides we have new objectives, okay, your KPIs will probably change. Again, the longer they stay in place, the easier it is to follow, the easier it is to track, and the easier it is to prove success and show success. The faster it changes, again, I say, you say this all the time in the clubs, and I'm sure you all feel this. It's hard to hit a moving target. Somebody's got to put something in the sand and hold it there and say, this is it, right? Again, when we get into, again, subjectives, you can have a KPI to improve the employee experience. That's a great KPI. How are you tracking it? Right? Hey, member satisfaction's a little low. Okay, let's make a KPI. Again, a very realistic KPI for some of you might be dining room service, right? And so how would you implement that? Right? You probably have to have some sort of feedback mechanism. You have to have time. Again, think of the SMART objectives, right? So again, it have to be specific, measurable. A lot of people will put a survey. We'll do a 6 months of random surveys of everybody who comes in and has dinner in a dining room. So let's take Michael's 1961 leadership complains, service isn't up to, excuse me, isn't up to snuff there. Okay. Let's do a survey. We can't change the questions of the survey. We've got to pick a period of time. We've got to have a number, maybe 1 through 5, and maybe it's 3 items, right? And that can be a KPI. And you can watch that for 6 months. And you can track how the numbers may go from a 3.5 to a 4.2. You go, okay, I can prove, right? And again, SMART goals told us that we want it measurable, right? So what's success? A 10% improvement, 20% improvement, right? So we're currently at a, oh, here I go doing math in public. We're currently at a 3.0, and we're going to do a 20% improvement. So we're going to need to see a 3.6 number in 6 months. Is that right? Is that math right? 3 times 2 is 6. Yay, math, right? So then we can come back and see a 3.7 in 6 months and say we were successful. We improved member satisfaction in that particular dining room by 20%. But again, what happens when we get a month in and they say, no, 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 that's okay, but now it's all messed up in the main dining room. Wait a minute, we can't just jump from 1 to 1, right? We've got to stay consistent over a period of time. So you may not be using KPIs in your current day-to-day, but I think you can. Right? I think if you have specific goals, Gerardo said you were looking at P&Ls. If there's a directive from above, hey, I want you to do a P&L for every event. Okay, what's the goal of that? Well, we want to track it. It could be just we don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Or it could be we think we're not making enough profit. Okay. Do we know how much we are? Do we have a goal? Right? And then now all of a sudden you can create your own KPI that updates each day when you sell, when you close, right? When the books are closed and you have, if you're doing a la carte or the event's closed. So again, you could make little mini KPIs on your own and track them and have your team track them. Right? Again, if one of them is beverage costs, okay, get your beverage team involved. Right? Are we pouring out this? Do we have too much of that? Are we making too much simple syrup? Again, I'm making somewhat hypotheticals that don't make sense, but right? Think of your own department as your own little individual company, and you can do your own KPIs. And it might be employee satisfaction again, right? If you're struggling or your turnover is too high for employees, you might say, "Hey, listen, I want to try and figure this out. I'm going to send a survey to every employee once a week." Right? What's good? What's bad? Again, you have to take some time to come up with those questions, but if you follow that, you can track it. Yes, sir, Mr. Horton, Dr. Horton. Sorry. Oh, you're on mute.
On the question of asking the questions, I will tell you that writing survey questions is more difficult than
Yes.
most of us believe.
100%.
And if you can find a researcher in your club to help you write the questions, do it.
Yes.
I am not a hardcore researcher, but I have a friend. I have friends who are, and they can tweak a question so it's not going to end up one way or the other. Just think about it from the concept of we living in a political society. Hey, do you believe that XYZ candidate is a scumball? Well, that's not a good, on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad do you think our current senator is? Well, that's a biased question. Whereas if you can create those good questions, you'll get better data. So just be careful because most people, 98% of the population has never been trained to write survey questions. Probably ChatGPT will help us, but I have no idea. I haven't gone down that rabbit trail of write me a good survey question. So
Yeah.
just be careful there.
And I would rely on your colleagues in your network, meaning SurveyMonkey's free. I forget, is there another one out there? Anyway, whatever. There's survey companies out there that are free that you might be using. If your club already engages with a survey company, that's great, right? Because in theory, they're smarter. SurveyMonkey will have some good questions. I would also reach out again to your colleagues, right? Who here has done a survey, right? My boss is asking me to improve employee morale, right? Who has some good questions, right? Or Chat GPT, again, all the AI models. The other thing I do a lot of is you all get surveys all the time. I complete a fair number of them just because I like to see. And to Brett's point, I won't say 100, 90 strong, 8, 9%. They had a problem. Perfect example. Sitting outside my house right here is a moving pod. We just moved. It's been here for 3 months. They lost it. I thought I had a free one, but I don't want it here. Called them yesterday. They're going to come pick it up. I'll get a survey afterwards. How was the pickup? Did the driver call you ahead of time? Yes. Did they leave the driveway as clean as when it was there? Yes. They're missing the problem. The problem was they lost the pod and had been sitting here for 2 months. But that's not the right questions, right? So again, be very careful how you're asking the questions. Don't lead them, right? And gauge how you want that response. And again, be careful how you gauge success, right? In my scenario, 3.0 to 3.6, in my mind, it's a pretty minuscule, I mean, right? I mean, that's not a big number. You didn't even get one whole number. You barely got out of the 3.5, but it's a 20% improvement. Right. Again, if somebody said, hey, I can improve your member satisfaction by 20%, I'd go, hell yeah, that's awesome. Right. So again, percentages and numbers, be careful what you're looking at. So again, I might suggest you start that within yourself. And again, you have use numbers that you already have access to. Right. Check with your boss, make sure they're okay, but start playing around with it so you get comfortable with the concept. Because that's all it is, right? And when you get into that next room, right, whether it's the department head room as a clubhouse manager, AGM, or you get in GM, you're in the boardroom, you're going to have goofballs that are going to put together surveys, like Brett says, that have stupid questions, and they're going to expect a 90. Well, we should go from 3.0 to 5 in 3 months. What are you insane, right? You know what I mean? So again, where general managers will run into problems is when they get into that boardroom, they don't have the confidence to stand up to the board members. And they go, okay, you must know better. And then they get bit because they're trying to go from a 3 to a 5. So what other thoughts do we got there?
I have a quick story on that.
Good.
So when the ownership group took over almost a year ago, they did a survey, and when that survey came back, they found out, or from the survey, they thought that they needed to spend. They were getting ready to do a lot of capital improvements, and so they wanted to do something with the outdoor pool and some other areas, and they didn't ask me, but I went ahead and talked to them anyways. And I said, hey, I probably wouldn't start with the outdoor pool. We really don't have a lot of people that use the pool. Most people are using the indoor pool. And then I gave them some other options on pickleball and some other stuff where I felt like we can start on those areas before the outdoor pool. Of course, they didn't listen to me because, what do I know? And so they did a second survey, which just came back a couple of weeks ago. And basically, everything that I told them came back on that second survey. And this is what, maybe a $500,000 later. And they spend all this money on the outdoor pool. And they're not getting, any return on investment because obviously I told them they weren't going to get it, but they thought they can just change the culture by just spending money out there. And we still, now they're like, okay, now we're going to do the pickleball and we're going to do some of this other stuff, where I was like, well, I mean, I didn't say it, but I was like, at least I have it on writing, and I had it an email and stuff. But and the interesting thing is that both surveys were different. And so, that's also another thing that I was thinking of is if your surveys are not consistent, you're going to keep getting different results.
Yeah.
So now they're going back and saying, well, we should have done this or we should have done that. And now they're almost changing like their targets because of this recent survey, um, which I think is more accurate on the second one. But I was like, why did they not, take the input from all of us that are here, and so they were just basing their results or their decisions on that first survey.
Love it. Exactly. Don't forget people who if you're given a survey from above, right? If you're like Hiram, where it's like, hey, listen, we're going to put a survey out because we want to improve, whatever it is. Doesn't matter what the survey is. Recognize, going back to Brett's point, there are people with clubs have an axe to grind, right? If I got on the board because it's too damn expensive and you keep going up on dues and we lose $500,000 in F&B, and I'm going to get on the board and make sure we make money on F&B so the dues can come down. If that person's in charge of a survey, or if that person's in charge of receiving the results of a survey, they're going to interpret it the way they want to interpret it. I mean,
If that
that's how
person's,
it,
if
yeah.
that person's on your board, then your nominating committee didn't do a good job.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. But you guys are in a position where you get to deal with the repercussions of that. Your GM's in there trying to get that person silenced, not like in the mob, but to let that person not have such power in the room, right? And trying to keep them contained. And that's why most really good clubs do not do the surveys on their own. They take it to a third party because you can't, it's very difficult to write an unbiased survey because you're biased, because you're the whatever you are. If you're the executive chef and you want to hear about the culinary output, you're going to ask questions in a certain way, not necessarily to lead the witness, but your knowledge might be such. Do you want more sauteed dishes versus deep fried? Oh yeah, I know. I love. I'm trying to think of an example where saute would be deep fried. Anyway, I've worked myself into an analogy that doesn't work. But the point,
Pan fried.
right, is you've got to watch that. And again, Hiram's great because if you're going to do a survey, if I get paid now on revenue, I'm now going to approach everything with how do I increase revenue? So what new things can I build to get more money out of the member's pocket versus the prior one, which is where are my biggest expenses, right? Where can I cut and the members won't see it? So go ahead, Hiram.
Right.
Yeah, I have a question for Hiram
Yeah.
though. The company, the new company that came in, did they come in and buy the club, or are they just managing it?
No, so they came to buy the club. They're called Juniper Golf. They own, I don't know, 11, 12 clubs. I think they have one in Atlanta. And I think this is a new venture for oh my gosh, I forgot. I just lost the name of the bigger entity in New York, multi-billion company. But I think they're looking to build a portfolio owning country clubs. They unfortunately they don't really understand the operations, and so the company that's doing the operations is Encore Leisure Group,
Yep.
which is right under Juniper Golf. So they're going back and forth a little bit on some of the decision making, because one is like, okay, I got the money, I own the club, I got the capital. You guys are doing the operational, part of
Side
the
of it.
of the clubs, and so
Yep.
there's a little bit back and forth on that, just to
So
give you a little more.
Does Juniper own Encore? Is that,
No, no, no.
oh, okay. Juniper contracted Encore to run it for them?
Correct,
Gotcha.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you all have to be aware of where you sit in the macro economy.
Right.
Look, there's a lot of private money moving into clubs.
Mhm.
Clubs are profitable. A ton of private money coming in. Private money has no idea how to run a club, right? So you're going to get some wacky stuff. Again, even member-owned clubs, Tariq and Gerardo, if you're not following the significant increase, they just announced another high-end city club in DC, in Georgetown. So there's now 3 new ones. I'm sorry, 4 new ones. There's the Ned Executive Branch, Jose Andreas Club, and then there's another one coming in. And these are all multi-$100,000 initiation fees. So again, how does that affect Army Navy Country Club in Arlington or Fairfax? Because one or two members are going to be members of those clubs, and they're going to get on the board, and they're going to say, wait a minute, hold on, at this club, I get all I can drink top shelf Pappy Van Winkle bourbon.
Good for you.
Good for you. At $500,000 initiation fee and $2,000 a month, we can afford that. It's not our model, right? So then they're going to go, well, I think this happened at Country Club of Fairfax. Every time we find a little hiccup, you'd have 3 or 4 members. Well, this is it. Why don't we just buy the club? Let's get together 10 rich people, buy the club, double our dues, and take our membership from 600 to 200. Every day, every year, at least once a year, we'd have that, and we'd run down this analogy. Well, can you run the financials on that? Right? And again, there's so many outside forces that get brought into the club that try to move how you run a club. Again, most of you all are insulated a little bit. As you move up the chain, you all get to see get a little less of that insulation, and you get to see a little more of that, right? And so as you spend time with your GMs and your AGMs and kind of in the board, you see some of that chaos, and you are at a phenomenal spot where you get to go, I'm going back to my department. I'm going to run my department, and y'all deal with that crap, right? But recognize where that's coming from, and recognize that that's going to flow down to you. And so the more you are knowledgeable in obviously your department, but the pieces that make up your department and how these KPIs fit into that, you can start to have conversations about, hey, this isn't a really good survey, right? Like Hiram just said, he noticed the difference in surveys between here and here, and now we got different results, and now we've got a position change from the ownership, right? And so if you're a GM, the higher up you are, you want to be careful. Is there a blame coming? Because who's going to get the blame for doing 2 different surveys, right? And so you want to be careful of that. You want to cover your butt a little bit there. But again, as you grow into these positions, that's going to become more prevalent. So again, I love this, how we can go macro, we can go like literally worldwide, where clubs are going, all the way down to a pro forma on an event. So again, if you have a need, or if you're following a certain financial number or group of numbers, make your own KPI. Print it out, put it on a sticky, email it to your team, and go, hey, here's our KPI. We're going to track this for the next 3 months or 6 months and see what happens. And again, if you're doing it in your own department, there's less pressure. As you grow, the pressure is going to become greater. There's going to be bigger downfalls, as Hiram just mentioned, right? So be ready for that to happen. Yes, sir. Mr. Horton.
How do the comparisons go back to, I'm trying to think of the company that will produce basically, here's how clubs are doing, but oftentimes that's highly biased towards, Riley was the group that you originally did it. How did Fairfax Country Club, when they got those reports, how did you use those to help guide, you know what, we ought to be running a food cost of 48% or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, so Club Benchmarking is the company that's out there that does the financials, and that's fantastic because I'm pretty sure all of you are in there getting to work in their software. They have a certain number of licenses. Again, you might have to go to your controller and say, hey, where are we there? Sometimes they don't want the staff to know, right? There's a little bit, the transparency tends to get a little blurry as you get into that, because well, wait a minute, hold on. Specifically, when we start talking compensation, the big number that most people will go after at least once a year is a net promoter score, which again, how many members said they would invite their friends to join, right? And again, so that's your net promoter score. There are industry norms out there. Again, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a big fan of the industry norms on the net promoter score. You're going to compare yourself to what? Congressional, Oakmont, what was one that they just held a big event anyway. Of course their members are happy. They just held a major, right? So again, it's tough to compare that. I think you should compare it against yourself, right? If your net promoter score again is a 3.0, Okay. And you took it to a 3.2 next year and 3.4 the year after. The problem is, I'm due for my annual physical here at the end of August. The problem is, once a year, what are you going to do with those numbers? Right? It's hard to effectuate change on a daily basis when you get graded at the end of a year, right? So again, keeping track of that on a smaller basis is one. Again, if you want more participation in events, and create a survey. Again, if you have a marketing department, that's easier. Again, use outside sources. Create an event for everybody who leaves an event, and do it random, right? There's a lot of good companies. I know uh, now I just lost it, Brett. Boardroom Magazine, if you do that, they'll have a different Boardroom Magazine. If you do the distinguished clubs, if you sign up for their program, which I'm not saying yes or no to, anyway, they take your membership, split it up into sixth or whatever, and then every 3, 4 weeks, a different group of members get a survey. So I like that rolling random, because if you do fireworks and you do a survey, 3,000 fireworks, and you ran out of hot dogs and it rained, you're going to get a shitty score because it rained. You do a wine dinner and the wine rep throws in an extra bottle of wine or brings in a super special bottle and you pour it at no charge, you're going to get great numbers. Are either of those really who you are? Probably not, right? So again, I like the random piece of it. I like setting up a dining or an event survey over the course of a year, and everybody who goes to the event, gets that, right? Again, you all know surveys, they produce two results. I hated it or I loved it. Everybody here that was like, yeah, great wine dinner. It was $100. I'd be happy to pay 110. The wine was good. They don't respond to surveys, right? So you get and the woo, this is great. So again, keeping track of it, we get stuck on surveys there for a lot, but that's okay, because again, it's how to gather that information. All right, so the last piece over here was reports and KPIs must be clear and consistent. We kind of covered that. I want to get to this one. Most efficient way to improve financial confidence is enhance your own knowledge. All of these are good answers. All of these are good answers, but the best one is you. You have to become more competent and confident with the numbers. Monitoring it will help. Setting clear financial goals will help, and using technology will help. But the reason I put that tricky question in there was it all rests on your shoulders. You have to take the initiative to do that. All right, so here's the P&L. So this, if you couldn't figure this out already, this is just an Excel spreadsheet. This is a simple Excel spreadsheet. Again, you can get as detailed as you want. And this is what a pro forma looks like. And you're just putting numbers in. And then if anybody doesn't know how to do this on an Excel spreadsheet, you can go to the first tab, which would be over here, right? And let's say fireworks falls here. If you go to this tab, and if anybody doesn't know how to do this, I'm happy to jump on a Zoom and I'll show you. You hit equals in the cell, and then you switch tabs and you click on that cell right there, 11,700, right? And that's the pro forma. It carries it over. And then you would do the same here, right? And so you would have one page up front where it said July fireworks. And if you wanted the pro forma, you could put it in there, right? But you could do, again, July fireworks, actuals, total profit loss, and again, your pro forma. And then you can come back, you can add a third column to show the difference. Whoops. To show the difference. Where did we miss? Oh, well, we picked up we did a little extra revenue, and it was mainly on beverages by Chit. All right, so if we did more of that, maybe we need to have 2 cash bars set up, right? Because maybe this is something we did at July fireworks. You got a wristband to participate, you got a different colored wristband for free drinks, right? So you had to have one wristband to get in the door, even though it was all over the golf course and they came in from all corners, right? But you can buy a drink, right? And so I would interpret this to say, wow, okay, chef hit it, right? Boom, dead on. But we sold more beverages by Chit than we thought we were gonna. So maybe we need a second bar. Again, my interpretation of it. And then again, you obviously have your costs. I'm not going to go through each line, but again, so we made profit here, which is a bad example of a fireworks, but anyway.
Hmm.
And again, a question could be, how do we determine for an all you can eat, all you can drink soda, how do you determine the breakdown? There's no right or wrong. Right? So again, we charge 55 bucks and it's all you can eat hot dogs, hamburgers, and soda or non-alcoholic iced tea, and right. And so you would just do a split here. Now you might on your actuals, you might go after cost. How much lemonade did we make? How much tea did we make? How much soda cans? Again, for this particular event, we had multiple satellite locations, so it was all canned beverages. So the cost was higher. It was easier to track. Whatever. Again, don't get caught in too many of the details. Again, labor, pretty straightforward. And again, some people reverse engineer this, and I'd be careful of that. Right? What you want to watch out for. Gee, we sold exactly $1,300 worth of beverages. Or was that a percent? Right? See, I can see some people shaking their heads, right? So you're either pulling that off a consumption report, or you're multiplying it by what you sold. I take it off a consumption report, right? Because again, for such a big event, it doesn't matter what you sold because you're kind of making this number up. Because 55, and again, up here, you can have, I need to change that too. Because up here, I would have your rate per person, $55 per person, number of expected guests, 2,000. And that would tie into these two numbers, food and beverage, because that's what you're covering. Now you can split that however you want to. You can see Michael lean forward and look to see how they split the food and the beverage. You know how
Just
chefs.
trying to read it because it's so small.
Is it small? All right, let me see.
On my computer, it is.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me see.
Well, I don't
See
think
what I can do here. Let me see what magic
missed-
I can do.
you missed one big expense in there.
What's that?
The $30,000 of fireworks.
Right, exactly. So, and why did I miss that? Anyone want to give me an idea? Tell me
Make
why I
it
would put
look
that in there.
good.
Dues?
No, to
It's
make
already
it,
budgeted.
yeah.
So it would be budgeted. So what we chose at Fairfax was to budget that in the entertainment budget and not take it in the P&L because it was unfair, because we had 200 people pay for food, but 3,000 were on property. But you can put it back in. Other years I put it back in. Right? So again, but just be consistent. If you want that to hit this event, right? And this was out of a conversation I had with a pain in the butt member. I almost said his name, but he won't listen to it. But anyway, I had it with a pain in the butt member because the first year I put it in there. Because why else would we have fireworks except for the fireworks event? Because he said we're not allowed to lose money on an event. So price your event to the minimum of break even. And we did that as an exercise for him. And he lost his mind. You can have it or you don't have to have it. It's one way or the other, right? We can put it to the event or we don't have to put it to the event. Look, it's the same. It's probably changed a little bit now, but go back, those of you with any type of gray hair, go back to the days when the big band on New Year's Eve. Does the band count on New Year's Eve? Gerard shaking his head, no. Why not? Because the band could be $8,000, $10,000 because it's New Year's Eve. Because then I got to price it. So $100 worth of food, $100 for the band, we're at 225, 250 bucks. That's too expensive. Did all the members enjoy the band? No, just right. So again, you got the politics that are involved here. And you got to be careful of that because that is an expense. And if you take it away too far, it's got to land somewhere, right? Think of the accountant hat, right? The 25,000 has to go somewhere, but it may not go here. And so we made 14,000 there. Now take the 25,000 out. Obviously, you can tell we would have lost $11,000. So again, either way you look at it, you can't have it both ways. And a lot of members of the club, specifically people with an agenda, they want it both ways. They want it 100%. Look at this, right? It's too expensive. All right, let me see if I can undo this. Oh, I did. All right. All right. So again, I love this with the SMART, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So if you keep your KPIs similar to you keep your schedule using the SMART technology, right? Nobody cares. Again, employee satisfaction. That's a phenomenal KPI to have. What's your purpose? What is it measuring? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to find? What are you going to do when you figure out if employees are not as happy as they were last year? Is there a reason for this? Right? How are you going to measure it? Right? Is it just their happiness? Again, you can have a net promoter score for employees. Would you, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being absolutely, I would force my friends to work here. 1 being, I would tell my friends to run away from working here. That's your net promoter score. Right? So again, it's got to be measurable. Is it attainable? Do you have a board member that's saying, oh, yeah, we're at a 3.0. We better be at a 5.0 by the beginning of September? What? Right? Is it relevant? Do we even care? We can't, right? Let's say I just did a seasonal staffing event, right? They let all their employees go in the winter because the season's over and they bring them back in the spring or whatever. Then what do we care if they're happy? They're all leaving. You all might be in a different boat. You might be very relevant, right? And you might take your full-time people and ask them, not your part-time people. Again, you got to be really relevant. You can get micro and time bound. Are you going to track this over a week, a month, a year? You cannot improve what you don't measure. So again, hopefully this allows you all. All right, let's see some of the surveys. I love this one, Frank. For some, this topic can be intimidating. I might say for most, this is intimidating, right? And look, it doesn't get, we could have 10 GMs come in here, all of you, if you have the opportunity, seriously, go talk to your GM. Ask them about KPIs in the boardroom. They'll go, it's a pain in the ass because they don't know what they're doing. The board members, the treasurer, so many people don't know how to do good KPIs. It was great to learn about KPIs and how they can help my club. I'd like to discuss pro forma P&Ls. I may have missed that. And then I love Brett's. Again, you can't see it, but having other people develop it, right? Having other people develop it, take it downstream, take it to your people, have them help develop some of this stuff, right? He was talking about being I'm not going to read it to you, but how good are most CFOs of a club, right? So then that's a great point that Brett's making. And you can elaborate on this as you prefer, Brett. But look, you may be in a situation as I look across, I'm going to guess most of you, I know most of your GMs, and here I don't know yours, but being with a management company, in theory, they're good with numbers. Now, you probably got a pretty good control system at your club, right? Your controller's probably pretty solid. Who here has worked at a club where it's an absolute disaster and they don't even know where the numbers are?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, look, I have. Yeah, Hiram has. Yeah. Look, I've walked into it and they don't even know where the numbers are. I'm working with a club now where they don't even have a budget. They don't have a budget. So the new GM's walking in, going to make a new budget. Right. And the board's squawking. We need to improve this. We need to improve that. And like, we don't even know where we are, let alone how we're going to improve this. Right. So don't think that if you're, accept the fact that if you're at a place that's really good controller and a really good CFO and a really good reporting process, please absorb as much of that as possible. Push yourself to work with that person because you will be in a position at some point where you're the smartest financial mind in the room. And I've been in that position and that's scary as hell. That's a scary position to go, uh-oh, I better brush off that calculator because I got to figure this out. And I don't ever want to be in that position again. And look, I'm not a dumb guy. Nobody here on this Zoom's dumb, right? But again, if you're the smartest financial person, then it might be a position that you revel because you got a economics degree. Awesome. More likely than not, you don't. And to be the smartest financial person is going to be a little bit of pressure. So, all right, we got 15 minutes left. I want to leave the last 15 minutes for questions or comments. I'm happy to prattle on. What do you want to discuss?
I'd say sitting down with the CFO on a monthly basis, if you have the time, is definitely worth it. I can look at the kitchen P&L and I can kind of pull things apart without even being
Yeah.
in there and know what's what. But I've actually started sitting down with him monthly, going through other departments' P&Ls and going through line by line, like what exactly goes into this line, what goes into here, why was it so much higher last year? Is it because of timing where it fell? But just kind of understanding all of the departments has really, sitting down with him monthly has really helped me with that.
Excellent, excellent. It's very important. Everybody here does events and has control of a significant amount of the purse strings at a club. And again, you may budget something. I use Memorial Day. You can use 4th of July. You can use Labor Day. Maybe we'll use Labor Day because it's more relevant, right? I think it's actually on the 1st. So when are you going to get your product in? In August. When are you going to sell it? September. So you better be pretty tight on your invoices and your inventory, right? You better know when it's coming in, when it's counted, when it's going out, right? And again, I've had that conversation many times with the finance team, the finance committee. Yep, we did this or did that. Okay. Again, those of you with any type of large expenses, whether it's clay or whether it's fertilizer, you need to work with the person who's purchasing that to figure out when the best advantage to buy that. Again, probably more of a GM situation for most of you. But look, they offer massive discounts to take delivery of and pay for chemicals in January, February, specifically in the Mid Atlantic and Northeast, because it moves this crap out of their warehouse into your warehouse and they get cash and you get a huge discount. But explaining why you have a $250,000 worth of fertilizer that hit in January when there's snow on the ground,
Spread
But
out.
hopefully that's budgeted.
again, but make sure it's budgeted, make sure it's understood, right? Again, that's why I think Michael sitting down with the controller and asking more outside your department what's going on. It should be budgeted, but your superintendent, golf course superintendent might go, oh yeah, I'll take that discount. Think of the pro shop, 2%. Everybody knows what like 2% 10 net 30 is. You get 2% off the invoice if you pay within 10 days, but the net's due. So as you maneuver through this industry, there's a significant one of the first things we did in the 2008 crash. I was at Bethesda Country Club, and we went to US Foods, Cisco, and our suppliers and said, we'll prepay. We'll give you cash. You hold our cash and you give us a discount, and we'll eat against our cash until we run out. We'll give you more cash. And we were at 10, 15, 20% on food because the markets were crashing, restaurants were going out of business, and we had cash. So we leveraged that cash to pick up 20% on our food.
So you created your own credit line.
Exactly. We reversed credit, right? So we paid for them. We paid them ahead of time. They could use our cash because we weren't getting 20% at the banks. So peel some of that cash out and give it to them. So again, as you get creative and strategic, you got to know where all this stuff is coming and going. And like Brett said, it better be budgeted. If your superintendent buys these chemicals then, or again, you should look at when you're making your budget, when am I going to buy food? When did my chef plan to buy food? And again, that's some of the conversations you would have during the budget making process. And those are some of the assumptions. And then you got to make sure that everybody counts it correctly. And we've all done it. I'm not going to make you raise your hands, but we've all done it. Hey, all this stuff, keep it on the pallet, wrap it in saran wrap. Nobody touches it and nobody counts it until tomorrow. and right, but make sure accounting knows that because the invoice is dated August 31st.
I had to do it for high noons.
For which one?
Well, when I bought like almost 50 cases of worth of high noons, they were like a case was like $25. I was like,
Yep.
normally it's like 40 something. I'm like,
Right.
I'm like, Michael, you're gonna have a nice delivery coming.
Yep. Right. And so everybody's got to be on the same page, transparency. Because again, if you go to your bosses and say 47 a case down to 25 a case, they smile
Sell it. I'm gonna
because you're
sell
going
it.
to sell it. It doesn't go bad, but be ready. Right. And so that's some of the conversations that your GM's probably having when they meet with their president,
Mhm.
their treasurer, having lunch or having their meetings throughout the month. Just so we know, Gerardo got some great deal on some bottled water. We're bringing in a truckload of it. We're going to store it here. It's going to get wrapped here. We're going to have to pay for it here. And this is where the money's going to go. But we just picked up 20%, right? Again, you all are in clubs where well, now most people have cash. But again, at different times, you have a different commodity and it might be cash. And again, some of these suppliers float big numbers and you have the ability to write a check, that puts a smile on your vendor's face, right? You just got to make sure, obviously, the cash is in line. You have controllers got to be involved, but yeah, I mean, look, leverage that stuff. That's the strategic thinking, right? That separates the leaders from the workers. Nothing against the workers, nothing against them at all. Think of the position player in sports, right? We need that. But if you're out there looking for that extra 10, 20%, and in Michael's scenario, in all your scenarios, right, if you have that conversation with the chef, okay, Labor Day, when are you going to buy this stuff? I'll buy it in August. All right, you're going to buy it in August, you're going to count it in August, and we're going to inventory it in August. So make sure your numbers show that, right? And then when you come back and, oh yeah, I forgot. Chef says, oh, I forgot. I ordered it all on, or I brought it in August, but I coded it in September. It tells you more about your person, right? And that type of thing. And so now you have a better idea. So what else? What else are we thinking? Who else has got stuff on KPIs, finances, financials, numbers, reports, whatever you want to talk about?
I would just share something that's worked for me. Ask a lot of questions to your general manager or whoever's in charge of the reports, because sometimes whenever I thought they were looking at a line item, and I asked, it's like, hey, what about this line item? They're like, oh no, don't worry about that one. We don't really pay attention to that. So that kind of gives you some guidance on what they're looking at more. Um, and you'll be surprised. Obviously the bottom line is always going to be the number they look at the most, but some of the areas, I think it will give you a lot of information on how they read the reports.
Yes. And it gives you insight as to what is important to the people above you,
Right.
right? Because in your scenario, you went from an organization that was very focused on the bottom line to now someone who's focused on the top line. So now
Right.
your focus has to change. If you ran around the facility turning lights off all day to save electricity versus being on court and doing a open house, whatever, to get more people to come in. Right now, all of a sudden, the previous ownership or previous management style would have said, "Hey, good job turning the lights off." The new one's like, "What the hell are you doing? You're turning lights off. Get out there and make business," right? So it's how you're perceived from the people above you. And again, like I said, plus kind of what they're looking for, what's hot on their mind, what are we focusing on? Because again, if you all have seen, has everybody here seen the entire financials for your entire organization on some level? It could be what, 20, 30 pages, 50 pages, right? Okay. And again, not to pick on rackets or golf, but do we need new ball washers on the golf course, or can we refurbish the ones we have? Who cares? Somebody does, right? But if that's not what we're looking at, then let's not waste our time there. Let's stay here looking at the 4 or 5 things that we're looking at, that the volunteer leaders are looking at, the board's looking at, the committee's looking at, and your general manager's looking at. The quicker you get on their page, the more you're seen as part of them, right? The easier it is to have conversations with them. And again, you're talking because you all run into the heads of your departments, right? Those of you that deal with house committee or whatever, they come in and they go, "Where's food cost?" Right? Or they'll see an elaborate event and they'll go, "Oh, I bet food costs are going to be off on this one," or whatever it is, right? But if you say, "Oh yeah, absolutely, no, we're focusing on net promoter score for our employees." Oh, okay. That's why everything is a little bit nicer. We want to make our employees a little bit, we want to retain our employees. Oh, okay. Right now you're talking a common language with them. And it allows you to kind of redirect out of the micro. Well, why are we wasting money having the car detailer come in and detail an employee car? Oh, because they sold the most bottles of wine last month and they got a free car detailer. Okay. Why are we doing that? That's a waste of money. Cut that out. I thought we decided we wanted to improve the net promoter score of our employees. Well, yeah, but we don't want to spend any money. Okay.
Don't worry.
Right. This is how we're going to do it, right? This is we're going to watch the net promoter score go up, and that's a success. Did expenses go up with that? Probably. Right. And that's another KPI. You could watch that. You can discuss that, but we're not going to micromanage that because our goal is to do this with whatever that is. Right. There's probably less pressure, Hiram, on expenses because Let's drive revenue. So now if the banner that you had out front that said new nets, whatever it is that you're promoting, if it was ripped before it was keep it another couple weeks, now it's go get a new one. Give you an example.
It looks like you've been on my club before.
From thousands of miles away.
I had a
can
rip
this
net
stuff,
for like
right?
2 years.
Yeah.
It was annoying.
Exactly.
Now they're all new, but
Now
yeah.
they're all new and nobody
Digital.
cares about the expense. So again, it's you're now in sync with them, right? There's probably hopefully less tension if there was tension before, but there's less potential for tension, and you're moving along in the same direction. Again, and again, one of the things I teach is making decisions, and it would be nice. This is a little bit of a side note, and I'll be quick with it. I used to always try and put the mission, vision, and values in our boardroom. And when we would get off topic and we go down into rabbit holes, I'd point at it and go, okay, how does this discussion work into our mission? Oh, it doesn't, because we're talking about soggy French fries. Okay. And the discussion, take it back to that strategic level of how does it affect our mission, right? And so again, if your mission is to grow revenue, then why are we talking about new banners? We're talking about growing revenue, right? And so again, not everybody gets that. And so that's the hard part is some people in a nonprofit club, half the board is always talking about cutting expenses, regardless of what the goals are. So it allows you to redirect people to say, oh no, these are the KPIs we're following this quarter or this 6 months or this year. We're not following that. I wouldn't say that, but it allows you to redirect them into focusing on how to do that. So what are some other thoughts here as we wrap up?
I think it kind of goes to understanding your club's business model.
Yes.
Are they, would they rather sell 100 tennis rackets at 30% cost or 1,000 at 50%? And
Yep.
what's the answer? Is there a right one or a wrong one? It kind of depends on which way they want to go.
Exactly. Right. The big thing now in private clubs is the member experience, right? You can justify almost any expense as long as you can prove it improves the member experience.
They are happy.
Yeah, right. And again, that's fine. And recognizing being in sync with your club, right? Is that what they do? And again, it may not be. It may be some balance of that. We do, but we can't go too overboard. We don't want to be congressional, right? Or whatever it is, right? Whatever the other club comparison is, right? You're not a restaurant, but you're not congressional. You're in here. And that's fine. That's where most clubs live. 99% of the clubs live in there. And then how do you, again, what's your overriding goals? And again, if the board helps that at the beginning of the year, these are our goals for this year. Okay, cool. Let's follow them. Let's track them and follow them and make sure we can do that. Right? Back to the employee experience. We did that coming out of COVID. We lost so many employees that we all kind of said, okay, we've got to make the experience better for our employees. So we raised rates, we gave them more flexibility in their schedule, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we did that, and that's okay. Measuring it is good also. So, all right. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? What didn't we
Just have
cover?
a question for
Yeah.
Michael. I just think didn't he was going to his first board meeting?
Oh, that's right.
I did. I went to the board retreat
How was
2
that?
weekends ago. It was good. I did what I was supposed to do. I sat there and stayed quiet and observed. I tried not to chime in until we got to dinner. Sat next to the CFO, who probably should have chimed in a couple more times. But yeah, I learned some good things. It was a good experience.
What's one of the things you learned?
Oof, this one was big on our next year's capital improvements. Trying to drive down where we're going to go with it. We had a proposal for new 3-story building at the pool with new locker rooms, new actual snack bar kitchen, 3rd floor golf simulators, more storage in the 1st floor. We were also looking at putting in an indoor tennis facility, which was going to have 8 indoor pickleball courts and 4 indoor tennis courts.
Nice.
It was going to be about 800,000 square feet or 80,000 square feet. No,
80,000.
one of those. It was a lot. It was basically like putting a target on our court or over our courts. We decided that that's going to get pushed into a longer down the road capital project, just when the numbers came in of how much that was gonna be, and then we settled on, well, while we're at it, since that was so much, let's just rip out our pools and completely rebuild them next year. So I think
Hell
that's the way we're gonna go.
So that's awesome. So what would be some KPIs that you think the board would be looking at?
Their most important one would be, can we get the pool open for season on let's see,
26,
it'd be 2020, no, it'd be 2027.
7. All
We
right, so
would
it'll be shut down
we
next year.
would, yeah, we're looking at shutting down after July 4th, 26, and reopening by Memorial Day of 27.
Yep. So what would be some financial numbers? Who wants to chime in? What would be some financial numbers that you think if you were in GM and the board said, okay, we need some KPIs after what Michael just gave us, what would you want to look at? What's one or two things you'd want to look at?
Contracts.
Contracts. Okay. Good. Yep. What you got, Hiram?
Lost revenue.
Lost
Any lost
revenue.
revenue?
Yep, lost revenue, exactly. You'd probably also want to keep an eye on your capital fund, your capital number, right? Maybe the wait list. It's
How
where you
to
get
boost
most
the
of your
other
capital.
outlets.
Say that again.
How to boost the other outlets to
How
make
to
sure.
boost the other outlets, right? Getting the other outlets prepared to take the influx of people, maybe, right? Or maybe there'll be less people. Oh, it's under construction. I don't want to go there. I don't know, maybe, right? But you'd want to keep an eye on what kind of financial data would you want to keep an eye on? Less operational, more financial thinking. Already said one or two. So capital would be another one. Think macro outside the club. Debt,
Cost of goods or cost of
interest rate.
like
Yeah, cost of goods. Yep.
Yep.
Interest rates, debt, right? Because you're going to go into you're going to be spending a lot of money next year. So again, right, is the capital reserve fund good? Are we bringing in enough? Because you have a monthly capital fee, right?
Mhm.
So you'd want to have some sort of cash flow estimate on that. You're at a capacity, so you can figure you can max that out, right? You'd want to make sure that the people on the wait list, are they getting the right, what's their initiation fee? Some of them are in at a lower number, or have they all been bumped to a higher number? So you kind of want to do that. You'd kind of want to check on your debt, right? Are you going to use some debt for that? If not, maybe it's a line of credit. Where are the interest rates going? Right? You want to make sure, a lot of times banks would have ratios, right? To keep this debt to stay in accordance with this debt, you have to have a debt to equity
Not a
ratio.
variable percentage of interest, right?
Yep, exactly. So your interest would get charged based on your operating percentages. So you'd want to watch operations. You really want to make sure your numbers are there so that bank doesn't charge you another 2%. You wouldn't want to get hurt like that, right? So again, some big macro stuff and it might also be outside of the club, right? I mean, the Fed says everybody thinks the Fed's going to cut some rates in September. Great time to start a construction project because we see rates coming down. So again, that's kind of, if those are some ideas that your GM's got in his head, and it would be a great conversation piece. Hey, what are you looking at? What are big things for you as we go forward? Right. And then take the next step down. Okay, operationally, what's the charge for the operations team? It's probably going to be a lot of logistics, a lot of moving parts. How do we give up a pool and still keep our members happy? How do we have construction trucks and jackhammering? How do we keep, so then that feeds down into the operations piece. So maybe staffing, how do we keep the staff with the hours if we're going to lose some revenue or some outlets, maybe use it as an opportunity to correct some staffing challenges.
Well, snack bar is seasonal anyway, so if that's the case and we only have to get through about 8 weeks of pool, I probably won't even hire any seasonal next year.
There you go.
Just do what we have in the house.
Yep, exactly. So again, now and then you're going to want to communicate that to the staff, why and how. Good, Gerardo.
No, I'm saying like when he said that, like not hiring seasonal, maybe just bring maybe the part timers or whatever, just make sure, and instead of offering a full catalog menu items that just like, we shut in 8 weeks. This is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
Like the burger salads and beer and wine. Call it a day.
Maybe a grab and go section. Yeah. So again, you can see, and again, so your KPIs, Michael as the AGM, right? John, your GM and your board's got these KPIs, right? Kind of again, capital revenue, which you may not again, I'm not gonna say you don't care about it because you do care about it, but again, that's maybe not something you would look at, but you might be really focused on payroll, again, operational, how much expenses are going to increase because of the chaos where you don't have the revenue,
Hmm.
right? So what's the difference there? If you let's just say you broke even, now you're going to have a loss, right? And then probably a little more focus on timing. Does everybody on your team recognize that when we shut this down, we're going to have to go without? We're going to have stuff moved. So again, there's a little bit of that. So again, and then also, what are you going to keep your people? Where are they going to stay focused? Right? Probably a lot more focus on timing from the kitchen, meaning you can't be 2 weeks late on a menu. You got to get this out. Or like Gerardo said, simplifying. Hey, listen, this is not the year to to go after the wild, crazy food offerings. We don't have a pool, so let's keep it simple, stupid, right? And so again, as you adjust that, and then you start building. So again, as you proceed, you're going to have different things you're looking at. So awesome on your first board meeting.
Yeah, great. It's good.
Who else got something they want to share? We're a couple minutes over, 8 minutes over. This is good stuff. All right, do we want to get together in August? Do you want to get together one more time? I'll say yes. Seems like Gerardo's nodding his head. All right, cool. I will find the date and I will send it out to everybody. I think it's, yeah, September 9th. We're already in August. September 9th. All right. I'll load that and send that up, and I'll cut it back to like an hour and we'll just do a free for all. If y'all can make it, that's great. We'll talk about whatever part of the program you wanted to talk about. I think I've reached out to most of you for some testimonials. I would love testimonials. Biggest thing I want is, what did y'all learn from this? I mean, and not I don't need it, I don't, just what was it that was like, hey, I thought I was going to learn this, but I learned that, or I was really happy I learned this, or this really helped me with that. I'd love to know again kind of what you all got out of it and how it helps you on your day to day and into the future. Again, nobody needs to write a book. I'm happy to do it by video. That would be great. I'd happy to do it by email. That's fine. I'm going to have Ashley help me compile it all, just because I want to know again, um, what you got out of it. What I think it was fantastic. I know what I wanted you to get out of it, but I'd like to see if you got that same thing out of it. I've got certificates that are going to go out. We'll get those out here in the next couple of, well, give me a week or so. I'd also love it if you all put, and I'll send an email with all this too, put CHP behind your name as a certified hospitality professional. I love that. That would be fantastic. Great way to promote it. But yeah, let's meet again on September 9th and do a little final quick walkthrough or quick catch up again and see where we are. Sound good?
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, Brian,
Awesome.
I'll let you know on that date because I'm going to BMI, but I can't remember if it's that week or the following week.
No worries. If you can make it, awesome. If not, if you can pop in during that, great. If not, no worries.
All right.
hey, Brian,
Sound good?
I had a quick question.
Excellent.
Is there credits for the CMAA as part of this certification, or
Yes.
is it? Okay.
So what we'll do when we're done with this one is, well, actually, let's wait till after August because we can get a few more credits for that one since it's live. Because CMA gives credit for the live education, which is this. And that's why you'll see probably tomorrow, you'll get an email that says you passed the live. If you attend, you pass, and that's the piece that gets to CMAA. We compile it, and then you get your credits.
So great.
They asked that we do it after the session, after the series, so that it's not every single one. So we'll wait till after September 9th and I'll send that all over to CMAA. But I'll pass you for this live event, which is
I understand.
look at Brett getting us go, baby. CCMs on your future, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you all
I
very
think those
much.
are the
What's that?
I think those are the points that just don't matter for me. I don't think, I mean, I love them, but I don't think I get anything. This is like the points on whose line is it?
Yep, exactly. Excellent. Well,
Which
thank you very
BMI
much.
you
Thanks for
going,
your
Mike?
extra time today. Go ahead.
What's that?
Which BMI you going to?
I'm doing 1 in September, 2 in October, and 3 in April. So I'm trying to do CCM in 36 months.
Woo.
So Yep.
Cool. Are
Yeah.
you signed up for any, Gerardo?
Well, I didn't do I wanted to do this one this year, but I'm going
Okay.
to going to Georgia next year.
Nice. Nice. Tariq, are you doing one?
I'm thinking about it.
Good. They're good. Look, the BMIs are great.
Hmm.
It's really about the colleagues and the tours and the information. The information's good. It's just hard. It's just 4 days away from the club. It's
Yeah.
travel. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's a lot. So, but it's good education. And that's why I thought this would be a little different. You hopefully less time away from the club, a little bit more interactive. So,
Kind of work out for me because obviously I'm like I can take the day off and do it instead
exactly.
of just going like because I was planning to go to Georgia this year and then go to LA next year.
Yeah.
But if I can, obviously the club will find one of the two that I want to plan for next year because I do want to take LA next year and leave the chief officer one for like the following one.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Cool.
Trying to talk John into
Thanks.
sending me to trying to talk John into sending me to BMI golf next year because it falls on my birthday weekend. So I was like,
International is a good one too, but that's
international. We're waiting for a good one.
yeah, exactly. That's a bit pricey, but
Italy or bust.
yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you all very much. See
alrighty,
you in August.
See ya.
alrighty. Do it.
Thanks everybody. Brett, see you in a few if he hasn't already left.